Okay, so riding horse. We used to call crocodile legs. So the crocodile's legs come out from the body and then come down. So this sense that the legs aren't underneath me like this. They're attaching at the side, which enables there to be like a real spring to this area and to the sacrum to feel like it's hanging. So the head's suspended. So for me, it feels like it's the back of the skull, the very top of the spine, really. That's like a hook is underneath here, and it's pulling my head upwards. And it's that enables this to just relax down. Feel the spirit that enables the joints to just pop open. It's like ping. You have that lightness on the top of the head. The body can spring open. The joints, the major joints, so like the hips, the sacroiliacs, and the joints between each vertebra. It's like a real readiness. So you're about to move. Whenever you're still, you're about to move. You can just spring into action any moment. So you haven't become stiff and solid. Feeling that the sacrum is directly beneath the sternum. It's not quite, but it feels like it is. So through my spine, there is a surge of energy upwards. So just allowing the sacrum to lower, branching out into the heels. And then just coming forwards onto the toes. So lifting the heels. So this is more spirited, more open, more ready to move. Poised. Now let's just rock back. So get this exercise of just getting the heels to, the heel has to feel as though it's going up a little bit and then back and then down and under. It's really just a feeling for the tail. So the tail sort of expressing itself in the heels. And then one more. So just coming onto the toes. So just really letting it, all the joints just spring open. So it's like each joint has a little bit of spirit in it. And then just rock my back. And now let's try the bottle of wine image, emptying one side and filling the other, and just feeling how they're not the same thing. So you empty the bottle of wine into the glass. The wine pours out of the bottle as it empties, but it comes up the glass as it fills. So I'm going to empty this side of my body into this leg, and I want to do it with a turn. Feel the primacy of turning. So I turn and fill this leg. So I'm just turning into the leg. So let's just pivot on bring the other heel up so that you can really get a sense that you're sort of anchored here. Really feel that heel back to here. And then I empty down into this leg. And then back. And then I empty. And now just feeling the filling as well. So I empty into this leg and the filling comes up. So one hand is going down for the emptying and one hand is coming up for the filling. Turning into this spot. and then just back. Okay, so let's just bring it up a bit. And now just try the heart qigong. Just trying to get it all from the belly and the lower back. So this is my lower back tightening. And then my belly kicks in to bring the hands down. This is my lower back. And then my belly's pulling in. And then my back. And then just holding the hands out. And now just turning the head. And then the hands up. And now just tipping the head down and up. And then just up and out again. And now just pulling the shoulder blades together at the back and then pushing them apart. And then just breathing. And now let's just try just turning. So we just want to feel like it's just very easy to turn. I almost float around. Okay, and then back again. So again, this real sprung openness in the legs. So the spine is just like a conduit, so a passageway for energy. So the sinking energy will tend to come down it like this, and the rising energy will just go the opposite direction, funneling out, and the sinking energy funnels in. So you've got like a spiral that's widening on the way up and a spiral that's narrowing into the tailbone. And we just want to feel the leg as just really being attached in such a way that it doesn't interrupt that energy. Top of my head down to the bottom of my tailbone, that craniosacral system is just really alive, throbbing, breathing, shining. And that is being held in place by these two flanks, my left side and my right side. And so it's the job of these two sides to move this around, feed it, and just really look after it. And just be gentle with it. So you see it best in animals, especially like cats, small ones and big ones. You know, just that, the gentleness with which they prowl. You can tell that they're just being, they just have a, they're not rough and careless. Or like a flower. You know, when you see a flower, it's like just an eruption of beauty. And, you know, where's it come from? It's like a wound that's just bleeding until it fades. In the sense, that's what living creatures are, especially humans, and especially children. You know, they're like a wound in the fabric of reality, allowing some sort of weep, some seepage from some strange place into here. So the human at their best is bleeding, weeping. The noisy mind is just our protection from that. It stops us from bleeding. It stops us from being properly alive. So there's a sense that you are opening out into the universe, and the universe is just funneling through you. Okay, so now let's just lift this leg off the ground, but just really making sure we get into this leg properly. So I don't just want to come over the foot like this. I really want to go through the leg. So the leg is really bowed, which enables it to maintain this feeling of bouncing. So I want to bounce into the leg, not because I'm bending the knee, but because the leg has become springy. So as I come into this leg, the knee really has to go out in order to create the bow in the leg. And then this foot can come up. And then I've still got this buoyancy. And we get it really by just grabbing the ground with the foot and pulling the ground towards you. So here I'm grabbing the ground, and that manifests, that's visible in the person's knee because you really see the knee going out. My toes go down and then they grip into the ground, pulling me across, but also really stretching this open because I have to use my body inertia. So my body doesn't really want to move. So if I move, the leg really has to mean it. So I pull in this direction. So it's real outside edge of the foot, but it's like I've got to do this. It's something, same as with when I sent the heel back, the heel has to come up a little bit before it can then come down and under. It's the same thing here. So something has to, so the knee comes up and then it starts pulling me in that direction. And then as my weight goes into the foot, it will go down. And I've really created this circuit. And it's that just brings this foot up. So it's like a wheel on the vertical plane. So here this knee goes up and then out and down and under here. And just really feel this joint, feel the openness and just that clear passageway through energetic passageway. So one that has where the joints are sprung open rather than compressed, closed. Don't worry if you feel like you're tilting. Just aim to get the passage, the openness in the hip here especially. And is there a sense of rolling like this to get this foot up? Just to eschew the security and the safety that we're always looking for. So this is really tottery. So the less stable it feels, the better, really. And just feeling the spirit that just keeps the joints sprung open. It's a charge. It's like an electrical charge. Think of the knee goes up, out, and down. And you're full of spirit. So you'd be really responsive, like on a hair trigger. Yeah, so we go slowly so we can really look at it. And now let's just pulling with the feet. Very much like prowling. And very much working from the toes. So you can do forms like this, just like doing the form, never putting your heel down. So you're just on your toes the whole time. Yeah, so something in me sinks in order to rise, in order to raise my hackles, really. That's the feeling. You know, your spines have come out. I saw a live porcupine yesterday for the first time. I've seen lots of dead ones squashed on the road. It's just yielding. If you can't rouse your spirit, then you can't really yield, because you're opening, but not like this, by just creating a hole, a vacuum, and then the world will gush in. This feeling here, my elbows and my knees going behind the person and drawing them in. So that act of pulling the ground with the toes draws me forwards, but also creates the hole, creates that embrace that will accommodate and invite the other person. So just try and feel it in the knee. My knee is going out and up, but as it comes into the foot, it's being constrained by the immobility of those toes. So it's being pulled down. Almost, it's like it's being pulled down a pathway it doesn't really want to go. So it's trying to roll out. My thigh is trying to roll this way all the time, but my toes are pulling the shin the other way. So the knee gets quite a... So this is opening like that, and the toes are closing, if you like that. So it starts off with the thigh and ends up with the toe. So there's a sense of the figure of eight. So that's basically the top of the figure of eight. And then the bottom of the figure of eight is just making sure I've just anchored this foot. The knee is going out, so the sense that this is folding here. And then it comes over as I come into the foot, and then here, this is just a little wiggle to make sure I'm really attached to the ground. I'm not just on it. But this is the difficult bit, really, because we're not used to this. Yeah, so it's the knee going out that draws me round. And then it's this part here that just yanks me into the foot. And then this just, it's like a little hook going into the ground. So this is really how you greet the world, how you interact with the world. You open out and offer something. You offer a smile, if nothing else. And then as the encounter becomes closer, you draw it in, you wrap around it. So this is each footstep that you take as you walk is basically this. Yeah, so it's this opening that we tend to have lost. And I really think it is because we've sort of lost the sky. I mean, we all know that the sky is there, but that's the problem, really. We don't really connect with it. So the sky as like the heavens, you know, the sort of the mysterious, the wonderful, the vastness, compared to which you are nothing. So what we used to call God. So whoa, something in me has to really open up to that wonder. So now, most people are so sort of engrossed on their telephones that it's like they're down this virtual tunnel. They don't open up anymore. Feeling the sky, feeling that vast canopy above you that's potentially funneling down through you if only you opened up to it. John always stressed, that it's the sky, or what he called the stars, that actually calls your spirit. It's not the earth. The earth is just like a sink. It's like the place where you will rot and fester once you're dead. So it's nourishing. It feeds this body. But it's the sky, the heavens, God, that actually calls your spirit. And this is what we want to feel. The vocation, the call. John called it a call to arms, like a call to battle, like the bugle call. So something is just rousing your heart, rousing your spirit, and just getting you ready for the fight. Just bring it back. So it's this light space in the joints that just enables you to be soft and fluid. So we want a body that flows, or a body that can flow. Not only are you a flower, you are also a flower. And we just want to be able to just, I can just turn a little bit, or just kick the ground a little bit, and just a ripple of energy will just pass through me, like a shudder or a shiver. And this is what I just want to be, that sensitive and that awake, that I'm just emitting sparks of energy all the time. In a state of grace and with a sense of wonder. I've never been able to find a better way of saying it. And it all depends on just being able to quieten this. If there are words coming into the head, then you're frightened. Or we could say petrified. You've been frozen, you've been turned into stone by your own indulgence. Space in the hips and space in the shoulders. So this real openness in those joints particularly. For me, this was the problem with the work that we did with John. At no point did it address the tension in the hips, which is the most important place, really, because his was so open. So he didn't need to work on it himself. And so he didn't see that it was important because his were just naturally very loose there. But that's where we keep our fear. That's the first tense shoulders are always an indication of tension here as well. And this is where we need to tackle it. So there's no point telling people to relax their shoulders if they're stiff here. So the knees out. This is what riding horse is for, really. Knees out. You've got a big horse. You're sitting on this horse. And there's a set, imagine if you were sitting on the horse, it would be your sitting bones, same as when you're meditating, that would be on the horse, and your legs would just be hanging either side, and they'd be hanging over like this. So it would really be opening these joints. So that's the feeling that we want when we're standing. And this is why it requires spirit, because you're now standing on your feet. So these effectively being compressed by gravity pushing you against the floor. That's why you need spirit. The spirit springs everything open. It pings the joints open. So it's quite an effort. It's quite a strain to keep the spirit going whilst you're standing, because it's always wanting to just deflate, and then you just settle onto it. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. And now let's just bring it up. So just feeling the belly. And again, just use the knee. My knee goes out. And that springs up this foot. And then I straighten the legs, but not completely. So I've still got this sense of widening at the knees, which is helping these joints stay open. There's that wonderful picture of Sun Lutang when he's standing like this. And in a sense, he just looks very sort of contained, but he looks really ready. Funny how some photos just have an aura, an energy about them, certainly with him, his postures. For the joints to spring open, there has to be something else in you that's holding on. So there has to be the complement to that openness. So there has to be a closing. And that's really just the tightening here. It's the mind, the noisy mind, just almost condensing into the dantian. And then that enables the spirit just to fire out. So it's the opposite of how we normally are. So we're normally with closed joints, a flat spirit and a flabby body that's just sort of oozing revoltingly into the space we're in. Almost like we're trying to contain the body and allow the spirit to emanate. So that was John to a T. Yeah, so we have two minds. A mind that is with the body, that is moving around and doing what it does, and a mind that is with the spirit, that is just praying unceasingly. So this is the ideal. So the problem with the noisy mind is that it tends to just bring everything into one thing. It just becomes this sort of grey, heavy lump. So when you quieten it down, then the mind can separate into its various components and you can have them going at the same time. So John used to practice it when he was peeling his potatoes. You know, being an Irishman, he loved his potatoes. And so, you know, his body was busy. This was before they had peelers, when you had to just use a knife. His body was busy doing that, but his spirit was just with this